The small, still voice of God is something which you'll hear people talk about so much. But the question is, why is it small and why is it still? Well, people who move in the revelatory gifts, that is, prophecy, word of wisdom, or word of knowledge, often hear God through this small, still voice of God. And what does that actually mean for them? Well, it means that actually they have managed to quieten themselves. They've managed to still their thoughts or learned to put aside what's going on inside of them and in their lives and all the externals. And they've been able to center themselves on the presence of God. So they've stilled their entire being, basically. And then God's voice is small. And what it means by that is it isn't boastful, it isn't prideful, it is love. And if you recall, we had a meditation on the voice of Jesus where we went through the passage in Corinthians about love and exchanged the word love for the voice of Jesus. So that is effectively what it means that God's voice is a small, still voice. It is that voice that draws you into a sense of rest, into a sense of contentment with Him, into a sense of, this is the voice of love. This is the voice of encouragement. This is the voice of strength. This is the voice of protection. This is the voice of guidance into greater and better things of God. And it is that still voice, that voice that you find in the peaceful time. His voice is peaceful because God is peace, and it says in the scriptures that Jesus is the Prince of Peace. So it is no wonder that God's voice then is that small, still voice. The inner voice of God is likened to this small, still voice because it can also be mistaken for our own thoughts. Somehow we can know what God is saying inside ourselves, but because we can dismiss it so easily as, oh, that's just me thinking something or my imagination getting carried away with myself, we can often miss this small, still voice of God because it's so gentle and so humble that it will work with our imagination, it will work with our thoughts, it will speak to us with our understanding and our perception of the world until we get a bigger revelation of how God sees things. So God's voice is humble. God's voice meets us where we're at. God's voice is entirely loving, entirely comforting, entirely peaceable, and entirely says, it's okay where you're at. I'm going to speak to you where you're at because I'm not going to require you to mature 50 years before I'm ready to speak to you. I want to speak to you right now, where you are, in your maturity, whatever level that is, because I love you. And that's the essence of this still small voice of God.